Guest editor Mark Mobius of Mobius Capital Partners has joined us, and he's going to stay with us through the budget and give us the benefit of his advice, his key takeaways from the budget. Mark, it's such a pleasure having you with us on what's perhaps the biggest day for Indian business, Indian economy, Indian markets. Let me start by asking you what will be the first thing you want to hear, the most important number or numbers?
Well, the first thing we have to hear is, are the statistics correct? This is quite a shock to learn that there are big questions regarding what the statistics are and whether they are accurate or not. And I think we have to look at that very carefully. But look, every country in the world has this problem. Anywhere you go, people will question the statistics. And I think the growth rate that we're looking at, about 8%, makes sense for India. So we've got to take a lot of these statistics with a grain of salt. I think it's particularly quite a shock at this stage to see this happen in India.
Really, Mark, I'm glad you raised it, because I would have raised that question with you anyways. It's been disturbing even within India that two of the senior most members and the only independent members of the apex statistical body have walked out. The backcasting of the new GDP series has been questioned as not gelling with other contemporary data in the 2000s, and then the jobs data was sort of hushed up, we were told. Is there, I mean, are other people like you raising this worry over the quality of Indian data? Is it compromised? Is that a fear?
It's not a big issue. As far as I'm concerned, I think the data is reasonable. And as I said, every country in the world has this problem. I mean, if you look at inflation statistics anywhere you want to go, yes, they have to be questioned, because the base of these statistics is being changed on a monthly basis practically. So it doesn't really shock me too much, but I think it will raise some questions among investors. I think the bottom line is, and the best thing that the government can do, is to open up all the books, reveal everything. And even if it means that inflation is up a little bit or unemployment is up, they should reveal that. And a lot of it can be explained simply because you're having more and more people in the labor market. You're having a more formalized economy. So it's natural that people will be unemployed at a greater rate than what would be when you didn't have those statistics. So I think that's the first order of business. Be open and transparent.
All right, Mark, take your point completely. Now that we have to work with the numbers we do have for the time being, today's event, this budget and this whole fear of getting increasingly populist, whether it's on income tax cuts or whether it's on this massive farm package, is that a real threat for the market, or do you think much of that is already priced in?
A lot of it is priced in. For example, Rose, a recommendation that there be a payment, a guaranteed payment to everyone in the country. That's been raised in the U.S. and other parts of the world. So this is not new. It's probably new in India, but it's not new globally. And of course, people are concerned that they're going to break the budget. But I don't think this is a big issue as far as I'm concerned, because the Indian government has generally been quite conservative, and the Reserve Bank has done a terrific job in regulating the amount of reserves they have. In fact, as you know, their reserves are very high. So I don't think that's going to be a big damper. The key question, of course, is growth and infrastructure. I get the feeling that the BJP has not done a good job in publicizing the degree to which they have been doing a lot in infrastructure. I think that's probably true at the state level. So more has to be said about what is actually being done. How many subways are being built? How many mass transit systems are being built? How many highways are being built, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I take your point. Since we every day navigate through, a city of Mumbai where the metro is being constructed, yeah, but you can rest assured that this being an election budget or a pre-election budget, you will hear a lot of that in the speech. Maybe 50% of the speech will be devoted to what has been achieved over the past 5 years. But Mark, it's possible that they will say it is a 3.2 or a 3.3% fiscal deficit, but they may assume, an 18% revenue growth, way higher than the nominal GDP. It is possible that they will understate expenditures on several counts just to get that number. Will all this number crunching be a bother, or do you think the debt market is big enough to discipline? Yields go to 7.8 or 7.9 and the government will make conciliatory statements. Would you really worry about these numbers too much?
Well, we know that the government is going to bail out the banks. That's going to happen. The Reserve Bank is going to spend its reserves to do that. So that should not be a big worry. I do worry about interest rates. I believe that, generally speaking, India does not deserve the high interest rates that they're now suffering through. And I think that has to come down. And, of course, it can come down if the markets are opened and you get more and more foreign investors coming in, as well as domestic investors who will benefit from being able to get good bond yields. But I believe that a lot can be done in that direction to lower interest rates on a realistic basis. Of course, you don't want to do this artificially. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for the economy generally.
That's an interesting point you raised, Mark. Now, do you think the RBI's hand will be tightened if today we get the evidence of higher fiscal spending? Is that going to have a bearing? I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you sort of are you looking at maybe a 50 basis points rate cut here in India this year, more or less? And how might that change depending on that deficit number that we get today for FY20?
Well, the hope is that the Reserve Bank will lower rates, regardless of what the numbers look like in the short term. Because in the long term, I believe as a result of the GST, the government is going to be getting a lot more income. Don't forget, the Indian economy is becoming more and more formalized, and more people will be in the tax net. So I believe that you're going to see tax revenues going up, which probably is one of the reasons why the BJP is having trouble at the polls.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are now being included in that net and they don't like it.
Yes. No, that point is taken. In fact, I was going to come to you with the consumption problems. You know, already the automobile stocks and the Maruti's numbers just came in, incidentally, for January, and they've risen by 0.5%. I mean, that's hardly anything. It's actually a flat performance, not at all typical of Maruti. Of course, a little better than the fall we saw in year-on-year sales in December, but it is still just crawling to flat terrain. We also saw Godrej Consumer Report, flat sales. Would you worry about the consumption space itself? Is it genuinely slowing down?
Oh, yes, we're worried very much about consumption and whether it's slowing down or not. It remains to be seen as we go into this new budget and, of course, government spending, whether the consumption will be going up. I know a lot of people are worried that, gee, India is turning into a consumer economy rather than spending on infrastructure and that sort of thing. I think you can do both, and it's tied together. For example, if you're doing more infrastructure, you're hiring more people, they're getting paid, they will consume, and the economy is humming along. Just don't forget, the American economy is based on consumer. The consumer is the one that drives the economy. So we would like to see more consumer spending going forward, and hopefully with the higher government.
I think we are not able to hear. We are not able to hear Mark, but we should set that audio right in just a minute. In about 40 minutes or less, we will only hear one voice
that
we want to hear.
Minister Goyal, yes,
Yes,
absolutely, the new finance minister.